In the U.S., propaganda was incorporated in the home front, influencing people's everyday lives during the war. To find out to the extent to which propaganda influenced these lives, we must first explore what propaganda is. Propaganda is a form of communication aimed at influencing the attitude of community towards some cause. Through the ages, propaganda has presented facts selectively, thus lying by omission, to encourage a particular agenda. The result is a change in the attitude of a target audience towards a subject to further a political agenda. Often people associate it with lies and manipulation. Propaganda's sinister connotation was formed during World War I when it was used as a weapon of modern warfare to gain support in decisions and influence the morale and mindset of the home front society. Because of the advantage it gave government, propaganda developed in many of the larger countries during World War I. The war wasn't fought on American soil, so the public was forced to rely on the information given to them by the government. The government only wished to portray positive information to create public support for the war and increase morale.
To do this, the government formed the Committee on Public Information, CPI, also known as the Creel Committee, after George Creel, its founder. CPI activities were intended to sell the war to the American public and included poster campaigns and war bond drives. They hired several famous artists of the time to help them design propaganda that would promote war. These artists included James Montgomery Flagg, Joseph Pennell, and N.C. Wythe. The CPI was split into several divisions that spanned the various forms of media of the day. The Films Division, the News Division, and the Division of Pictorial Publicity were meant to surround the American people in pro-war thoughts, which helped the government sell bonds, recruit men, and increase workers for war production.
Propaganda during World War I is split into two major categories, pro-war and anti-enemy. The pro-war category included military recruitment advertisement, war bond advertisement, and advertisement to bring women into the war. The military recruitment included the famous I Want You poster and other Uncle Sam themed posters. Other posters mentioned a man's duty to defend his family and his country, the macho image of a man in uniform, and a woman's respect for a man in uniform. A second aspect of the pro-war propaganda was women and their role in the war. These posters were of women joining war production to support their men overseas. The CPI used these pro-war campaigns to sell war bonds. This propaganda helped the government earn money to finance the war. The CPI worked closely with Hollywood to create movies to raise morale and support for war. These pro-war movies featured the glorious aspects of war. They showed men proudly defending their country and used big names like Evan Griffith, Mary Pickford, Tom Mix, and Charlie Chaplin to draw attention.
The other side of this propaganda were the anti-enemy campaigns. These campaigns centered around a growing hate for the enemy and helped demonize them. They described Germans as cruel, treacherous, barbaric, and inhumane. The specific images of the enemy that are presented in official propaganda reflect the government's judgment as the best way to build and maintain support for the war effort. Enemy motivations are almost always oversimplified and delegitimized. The government used pictures of the enemy that were quite brutal to instill the fear in the population at home who did not understand the war many miles away. Many posters presenting the opposing side in World War I helped America grow this hate for the men that were fighting. Many anti-enemy movies were also made that centered around the Germans and their leader, the Kaiser. These included films like To Hell with the Kaiser, The Beast of Berlin, and The Kaiser's Finish.
America was incorporated into the war fully. Propaganda was everywhere, and the war was always on people's minds. However, being that propaganda was so skewed in terms of what war was really like, we cannot say that the U.S. fought a total war. Being that, in retrospect, the American home front didn't even understand what war really was. While yes, all the members of the society were involved in the war, and through propaganda, people at home were surrounded in the war, the Americans at home could not and did not understand the horrors of war and the suffering that men in battle lived. While on the home front, people lived this war, it was a fantasy, a mere illusion of the realities the soldiers faced. The support for the war effort was due to the lies the government fed them. After the war, Americans realized the harsh conditions of soldiers on the front line and how details such as this had been under-exaggerated in order to sway their opinions.
Mother, proud of you and the old red, white, and blue. Over there, send the word over there. As the Yanks are coming, the drums coming everywhere. So prepare, say a prayer, send the word to beware. We be over, we're coming over, and we won't come back till it's over there. coming over, and we won't come back till it's over there.